Have you ever wondered why INFJs stay in relationships long after the love is gone? Why the rarest personality type in the Myers-Briggs system keeps giving chance after chance, even when they are quietly breaking inside? Why INFJs forgive more than they should, trust more than they should, and stay longer than they should? At first glance, INFJs seem strong, calm, emotionally intelligent. They understand people deeply. But that same depth can become a trap. Because when an INFJ loves you, they don't love halfway. They invest completely. Heart, mind, and soul. And sometimes, that loyalty lasts far longer than it should. So today we are exploring something most people misunderstand. Why INFJs stay loyal too long, and what finally makes them walk away forever. If you are an INFJ, this may feel uncomfortably familiar. And if you love an INFJ, this might explain the silent battles they never talk about. Let's begin. The INFJ personality and deep loyalty. The INFJ personality type is often described as the counselor, the empath, the quiet observer of human nature. In the MBTI personality system, INFJs are known for their deep emotional intelligence. They read people well, sometimes too well. An INFJ can sense emotional shifts before words are spoken. They notice subtle tone changes, micro-expressions, hidden pain. This ability makes INFJs incredibly compassionate partners. But it also creates a powerful pattern. INFJs don't just see who someone is today. They see who that person could become. And this is where loyalty begins to stretch beyond healthy limits. Because when others give up on someone, the INFJ often sees potential instead. Potential is powerful, but potential can also become a reason to stay in situations that slowly drain the soul. INFJs believe people can grow. They believe wounds can heal. They believe love can transform someone. And because of that belief, they hold on much longer than most. INFJs do not love casually. One of the most misunderstood things about INFJs is how selective they are with relationships. INFJs rarely open their hearts easily. They observe. They analyze. They watch behavior over time. Trust builds slowly, very slowly. But when an INFJ finally lets someone in, it means something profound. It means the person has passed invisible emotional tests. Consistency, kindness, integrity, depth. Only after seeing these qualities does the INFJ allow true emotional closeness. And once that door opens, the INFJ bond becomes extremely deep. This is why INFJ relationships often feel intense. Not dramatic, but intense in meaning. INFJs don't just date someone. They attach emotionally, spiritually, mentally. They imagine futures, shared growth, long-term emotional connection. So when problems begin to appear in a relationship, walking away is not easy. Because leaving does not feel like ending a casual connection. It feels like abandoning something sacred. The empath trap. Many INFJs fall into what psychologists sometimes call the empath trap. This happens when empathy becomes stronger than self-protection. INFJs naturally absorb emotional energy. If their partner is struggling, the INFJ feels it deeply. If their partner is hurting, the INFJ wants to fix it, support it, heal it. And at first, this makes INFJs extraordinary partners. They listen without judgment. They offer emotional safety. They provide patience that few people have. But in unhealthy relationships, this same empathy becomes dangerous. Because INFJs begin excusing behaviors that should not be excused. They tell themselves things like, "They are just going through a difficult time. They didn't mean to hurt me. They will change. They just need support." Weeks turn into months. Months turn into years. And slowly, the INFJ begins sacrificing their own emotional needs. Not out of weakness, but out of compassion. INFJs see the good in people. One of the strongest traits of the INFJ personality is their ability to see goodness inside others, even when that goodness is buried deeply. INFJs are often described as human lie detectors. They sense authenticity, but they also sense woundedness. And wounded people trigger something powerful in INFJs. The desire to help, to guide, to heal. This is why INFJs are drawn toward people with complicated emotional histories. People who feel misunderstood. People who feel broken. Because the INFJ sees past the surface. They see the hurt behind someone's behavior. But here's the problem. Understanding someone's pain does not excuse harmful behavior. Yet many INFJs struggle with this boundary. They confuse empathy with tolerance. They understand why someone acts a certain way. And that understanding keeps them loyal far longer than is healthy. The quiet suffering of INFJs. INFJs rarely complain loudly about relationship problems. They process pain internally, silently, calmly. From the outside, they may appear patient, even peaceful. But inside, something very different may be happening. INFJs analyze emotional patterns constantly. They replay conversations. They study behavior. They ask themselves difficult questions. Am I expecting too much? Did I misunderstand them? Maybe I should be more patient. This internal dialogue can go on for months, sometimes years. Because INFJs want to be fair. They want to be compassionate. They want to give people the benefit of the doubt. But this often leads to something dangerous. Emotional self-neglect. INFJs become so focused on understanding others that they forget to protect themselves. INFJs believe in emotional growth. Another reason INFJs stay loyal too long is their belief in personal transformation. INFJs are growth-oriented personalities. They constantly evolve, reflect, learn, improve themselves. Because they experience their own growth so deeply, they assume others can do the same. And often, they are right. People can grow. But growth only happens when someone truly wants it. And this is where many INFJs struggle. They invest emotional energy into helping someone grow. But that person may not be ready, or willing, or aware. The INFJ keeps waiting for change, keeps hoping, keeps believing, until one day they realize something painful. They were growing, but their partner was standing still. INFJs and the fear of abandoning people. INFJs carry a deep sense of responsibility toward the people they care about. If someone trusts them emotionally, the INFJ takes that seriously, almost like a sacred duty. This creates a hidden fear. The fear of abandoning someone who needs them. Even when the relationship becomes unhealthy, the INFJ may think, what if leaving hurts them deeply? What if I am the only person who understands them? What if they fall apart without me? These thoughts create powerful emotional chains. The INFJ feels responsible for someone else's emotional stability. But in reality, no one should carry that burden alone. Healthy relationships share responsibility. They do not depend on one person constantly holding everything together. Yet many INFJs stay because they feel like emotional guardians, protectors, caretakers. And walking away feels like betrayal. INFJs rarely give up quickly. When an INFJ commits to a relationship, they do not give up at the first problem, or the second, or the third. INFJs try to repair, to communicate, to understand, to improve the connection. They will adjust their behavior, study their partner's needs, look for better ways to create harmony. And this persistence can be beautiful. But in toxic relationships, it can also become exhausting. Because the INFJ keeps trying long after the other person has stopped trying. And sometimes, the INFJ is the only one still fighting for the relationship. The breaking point. But here is something many people misunderstand about INFJs. They may stay loyal for a long time. But when they finally reach their limit, something shifts. Quietly, internally. The INFJ stops explaining, stops arguing, stops trying to fix everything. From the outside, it may look sudden. But for the INFJ, the decision was building for a long time. Months, years, silent reflection, silent pain, silent disappointment. And when the final realization arrives, the INFJ does something people call the INFJ door slam. They close the emotional door. Not out of cruelty, but out of self-protection. Because once an INFJ realizes their loyalty is being taken for granted, they rarely return. The hidden signs an INFJ is losing loyalty. When an INFJ begins losing loyalty, it rarely looks dramatic. There are no loud arguments, no explosive confrontations. Instead, something quieter begins to happen. Something subtle. Something easy to miss. The INFJ slowly withdraws. Not physically at first. Emotionally. Because INFJs do not shut down suddenly. They slowly disconnect after long periods of reflection. And by the time others notice the change, the process may already be far advanced. Let's look at the quiet signs. Signs that an INFJ is reaching their emotional limit. The first sign, they stop explaining their feelings. INFJs are natural communicators when they feel safe. They like meaningful conversations. They want emotional clarity. They want understanding. In the early stages of relationship problems, INFJs often try to explain how they feel. Calmly, carefully. They choose words with precision. They hope their partner will listen. But if their feelings keep getting dismissed, something changes. The INFJ begins to realize that explaining does not help. So they slowly stop sharing. Not because they no longer care, but because they feel unheard. And once an INFJ feels emotionally invisible, the connection starts weakening. Silently. The second sign, they stop trying to fix the relationship. INFJs are natural problem solvers in relationships. When conflict appears, they try to repair it. They reflect. They analyze. They adjust their behavior. They suggest solutions. They invest emotional effort. But when that effort is constantly ignored or unreciprocated, the INFJ eventually stops trying. This is not laziness. It is emotional exhaustion. The INFJ begins conserving energy. They realize that relationships cannot be repaired by one person alone. And this realization changes everything. The third sign, their energy feels different. INFJs have a very distinctive emotional presence. Warm, attentive, deeply engaged. When they care about someone, it shows in their energy. They listen fully. They remember small details. They offer thoughtful responses. But when their loyalty begins fading, this warmth slowly disappears. Conversations become shorter. Responses become simpler. The INFJ is still polite, still respectful, but the emotional depth is gone. And people often feel this shift without understanding why. Because the INFJ is no longer emotionally invested. The fourth sign, they spend more time alone. INFJs already value solitude. They need quiet time to recharge. But when a relationship becomes emotionally draining, solitude becomes more than just recharging. It becomes protection. The INFJ begins spending more time away. More time thinking. More time reflecting. This distance allows them to process their emotions, to understand what is happening inside their heart. And during this quiet time, the INFJ often reaches difficult realizations. Realizations about whether the relationship still aligns with their values. The fifth sign, they stop imagining the future together. INFJs are naturally future-oriented thinkers. They imagine long-term possibilities. They envision shared growth, shared dreams, shared purpose. But when loyalty begins fading, these visions disappear. The INFJ stops picturing the future with that person. They stop planning long-term emotional investments. This is a major internal shift. Because for INFJs, the future is deeply connected to love. And when the future image fades, the emotional bond is already weakening. How INFJs finally learn to protect their energy. For many INFJs, learning emotional boundaries takes time. Sometimes years. Sometimes painful experiences. Because INFJs begin life believing that compassion should always come first. They believe patience can fix almost anything. They believe understanding can heal conflict. But eventually, life teaches a different lesson. A necessary lesson. Compassion must include yourself. And this realization changes the INFJ completely. INFJs learn the difference between empathy and self-sacrifice. Empathy is one of the INFJ's greatest strengths. But empathy without boundaries becomes self-sacrifice. And self-sacrifice leads to emotional burnout. Eventually, INFJs realize something important. Understanding someone's pain does not mean accepting harmful behavior. Feeling compassion does not mean tolerating disrespect. You can care about someone and still walk away. This understanding becomes a turning point. INFJs begin trusting their intuition. INFJs possess powerful intuition. It often senses emotional truth before logic catches up. But many INFJs ignore this intuition early in life. They second-guess themselves. They give others too many chances. They hope their intuition is wrong. But after repeated disappointments, INFJs begin trusting their inner voice again. They listen to subtle emotional signals. They notice patterns sooner. And when something feels wrong, they no longer silence that feeling. They respect it. This protects them from staying in harmful situations too long. INFJs learn that not everyone wants to grow. This realization can be painful. INFJs believe strongly in personal growth. They invest in self-improvement, reflection, emotional awareness. But not everyone shares this mindset. Some people resist change. Some avoid self-reflection. Some repeat the same patterns for years. When INFJs finally accept this truth, they stop trying to rescue people from themselves. They stop carrying emotional responsibility for others. And instead, they focus on mutual growth. Relationships where both people evolve together. INFJs start protecting their emotional energy. Energy becomes extremely important to mature INFJs. They begin noticing which relationships drain them, and which relationships nourish them. They start setting boundaries, saying no, taking space, choosing carefully where their emotional investment goes. Because INFJs realize something powerful. Their empathy is valuable. Their loyalty is rare. Their emotional depth is precious. And not everyone deserves unlimited access to it.